Well, good morning, everybody. Hey, Brew Crew. I'm Eric, and I got Shannon here, KC10HT, and we are your park guides. We're your mentors, your POTA mentors, I should say, and lover of all things POTA. First and foremost, good morning, folks. Glad you guys are here to join us on a Friday morning, and welcome. So, with that, I got a bunch of folks in the chat here. Things are going a little crazy this morning, but good to see everybody in there. Let's say a little quick hello there. Anybody you want to say hello to, Shannon? I see a few in here as I'm kind of catching up.
All right, yeah. Good morning to Alpha Alpha 4 Alpha Tango, and good morning to Whiskey Bravo 3 Hotel Papa Echo.
Good. John as well, WB3HPE. Guys, love to see you in the chat. Good morning. Hopefully not too early where you're at, but if you are, thanks again for joining us. And heck, go grab a second cup of coffee. You might need it just to kind of get into gear there. So with that, just as always, this is Brew and Activate. So maybe this is the first time checking us out. We appreciate you checking us out. But it's, our weekly POTA kind of get together. We get into the weeds. We talk a lot about and everything about POTA. And we love to, kind of dissect stuff, become better, maybe activators, maybe talk, hunting and everything in between. And Shannon and I do this together every week on every Friday morning. And so thanks again for joining us. If, again, this is your first time, but those that are regulars, because I see a lot in the chat, I appreciate you guys hanging out with us as well. And so with that, heck, if you want to help support the channel here, both obviously with me and Shannon, I know Shannon's just getting us started here. So if you haven't already subscribed to her channel, head on over there, show her a little love, and make sure you give, her some subscribes and shares too as well. She's doing some awesome POTA stuff, a lot more, at least past couple of weeks than I have been doing, which, I'm slacking. And if I had a wah noise, I'd fill that in there, but all good there. And, you can always help support my channel as well. There is the usual entourage of the Patreon and YouTube members chats, but we also do super chats. So heck, if you feel so inclined and you want to help support the show, we always appreciate it. And thank you again for helping us and supporting us. So good morning, Shannon. How are you doing this morning? I know you've had an action-packed week. What's been going on with you?
Well, geez, let's see. Since the last time we met, I went to a amazing World War II reenactment at the American Heritage Museum last Saturday. That was on the 11th. And then, I did a POTA activation yesterday with Paul N1OG. And for those of you that follow us on the Discord, you may have seen some of our posts about that, the trials and tribulations and successes of the
battery
POTA.
woes. The battery woes. We'll call it Battery Gate just to make it more exciting.
Battery Gate, that's a good one.
All right. Well, that's awesome. We'll dive in a little bit more of that for sure, because I'm sure with tonight's topic, see, my schedule's all off. Today's topic, this morning's topic, we're going to dive into some POTA propaganda. I know it's a little bit of a, kind of a spammy title, but in essence, it's really, kind of important. I think, one of the topics that Doesn't usually get a lot of light shined on it, but we'll dive in that in a bit or two. So as always, we're going to start off with the POTA Minute, and the POTA Minute is going to be a little tough for folks today. So let's get into it and get through it pretty quickly here. But so kicking it off. All right, POTA Minute, man. Usually I like to kind of keep this stuff upbeat, and I always like to kind of share some stuff, on the good side of things, because I feel, it definitely puts POTA in a good light there. Shannon, we just lost you out of the stream there. There we go. I got you back in there. Good. But I've got a little bit of, kind of hard topic to talk about. I've been getting a couple of emails, and it's been, kind of a mixed bag. And so I don't know, maybe you get this a lot, Shannon, too, as well, as as you do a lot of activations for certain parks in your area and you become kind of the regulars, you may get emails from folks from time to time, like, hey, how do I get to so-and-so park? What's the best place to activate? You get a lot of those?
No, I've never gotten any of those.
Wow. Okay. Well, then I must be the, the one with the sign on me that says, hey, come ask me about whatever park, and I'll, happily spill my intel. I had a couple of operators, new activators reach out to me via email this week, and they kind of started their emails off a little bit like they were beat up, or like they basically kind of got the cold shoulder from a few folks that might have activated some of these parks that I've been to frequently. And they kind of asked in a way that, like, they kind of led to me believe that they were feeling like, they were asking and they were getting cold shoulders, and they were getting nothing back from the folks that they reached out to at these other, that have activated this park. And so I responded, and when I responded with, like, yeah, here. And I gave them kind of like a laundry list of all of the things they need to, showed them with pictures, kind of gave them aerial maps and said, here, this is the stuff you're going to need to be able to be successful at activating, one or two of these parks. And I can't tell you, when I finally got the email back from them, they were like, oh my gosh, they totally, like, were like, I gave them a Christmas miracle kind of thing. And they were like, this is so awesome. This is so amazing. Thank you for all the information. And, I appreciate it. And then they ended it because, like, most of the other people I reached out to didn't respond, didn't, talk to me, basically said, go look at the POTA, website, and basically kind of fluffed them off. And I was like, man, that sucks. That just makes me mad, kind of, because it's like, I look at this hobby as a very opening and welcoming hobby for a lot of folks. I know we have our curmudgeons, and I know we have our lids, but in essence, that every kind of hobby does. But most of the time, when it comes to POTA activations and POTA in general, people are very, very helpful, whether it's gear, whether it's, tips, tricks, that type of stuff. I am, I was a little put off. And so I kind of corresponded with this person, and I said, hey, I hope you didn't, get turned off by any of that information or any of the other people that are reaching out to you. And we kind of been having a back and forth. And bottom line is that I'm putting the charge out to folks. And I know nobody in our chat here, nobody who's watching Brew and Activate, and nobody's who's part of the N1JR channel and hangs around with Shannon and I are like that. And they were more than helpful, and they will go above and beyond. So I'm going to call out those folks that, basically either didn't respond, didn't give them, time of day, or didn't even help them for 5 seconds, to do better. That's my POTA Minute today. Do better and get out there and do, the stuff you love, but more so share it with others, because I think that is going to continue to keep this hobby strong and continue to keep this Parks on the Air program alive and healthy and continuing on. And it will invite more people in, because then they'll feel more welcome, and they won't have to feel like, they have to do all their own intel. So, yeah, that's my POTA Minute. Do better. So, all right, enough with that. We're going to get into some other stuff here. So I am popping over here. So we're going to kind of talk about what I've deemed POTA propaganda. So today, if for those that are usual listeners may have noticed that a original stream went out earlier in the week and then got pulled back. Well, yes, you kind of got a tickler, an early surprise if you did catch it. We will be having Mike and 2MACAG on next Friday. So stay tuned for that. There'll be more details on that. But we're going to, talk a little bit about VHF and UHF and high bands. So if you really want to kind of get into that and learn a little bit more of that, then it might be well worth the, time. So stay tuned to that. But so to kind of recover and to get back into track, we're going to pick up the topic today that we're calling POTA propaganda. And one of the things that I see a lot of, and I do it myself, is that we might not have a good delivery. And some of us can chime in, some of us are really good with the radio, but when it comes to like sharing or, incorporating conversation with people that come up to us and ask hey, what are you doing conversation? Because we've all had it at least once. Shannon, I assume you probably get it once or twice, at least in your entire activation life, correct?
Yeah, people come up to you and they're like, kind of stand on the side and they're looking at you and they're like, hey, what are you doing?
Exactly, right. That with that little question mark floating above their head. And, and they're, it's kind of a curiosity more than it is like, I'm going to Karen you kind of thing. So one of the things I struggled with a lot, and I still kind of struggle a little bit, is always having some, what I'm deeming propaganda, which is really not propaganda. It's basically just some materials to kind of help pursue or, encourage the conversation and get people that may or may not, whatever their frame of reference is, understand what you're doing, and, help them kind of, lead them down the path to maybe joining the hobby. And so we're going to kind of workshop that today. And talk a little bit about it. And if those that are part of our Discord might have already noticed that there's a post up there, PDF, we're going to kind of dive into that PDF a lot more, because I think one of the things that we have strength, at least in this crew with the Brew crew here, is that we've got strength in numbers and we've got a lot of people that have a lot of great information, and we can put together some community kind of effort to help supplement some of the stuff that's already out there. And so before we kind of get into the workshop portion of it, I just kind of want to do a quick basically poll here. And this is a simple, kind of silly poll here, but I was curious to see what people would think of. So we're going to fire up the poll machine here real quick. So I'm going to throw the poll out. And so those that have been with the polls know that it's all chat-based. So if you're going to participate, all you have to do is use the hashtags there for what level or what answer you want to use. And so the question I'm throwing out to you guys is, how many times do you maybe get asked what you're doing when you're activating a park? And it could be like, you activate in a week. How many times a week? Whatever be the case. And so those are the choices there. So maybe less than one time is, pound sign or hashtag, 1X, 100X for multiple times. And, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, and you want to put the tinfoil hat on there, feel free. So let's let that churn here real quick. So let's go back here and talk a little bit while that poll's running off in the background for a little bit. So feel free to dive in and answer while we're starting to build the foundation here. So I think one of the things, and so let's kind of build from a base. Obviously, some folks know that there is a trifold floating out there. Shannon, you obviously know that a little bit. And do you have it with you when you activate, or do you have copies of it available?
I don't, and I probably should.
Okay.
I think this was something that we talked about somewhere. I can't remember where. Maybe it was with Paul and I when we were doing the Robert Frost activation, because even though it was raining, I think it wasn't actively raining at the moment, but a lot of people go there to walk their dogs. It's a popular spot. There's trails. So, these guys come by and we're sitting in the truck and they're just kind of like, they see the wires everywhere. They're like, hey, what are you up to? And we didn't have anything to give them. I didn't even have any of my eyeball QSO cards at the time because I was, clean out of them. And I was like, man, I wish like you had, your card with your YouTube on it, because then you could have showed them like, hey, this is what we do.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I even sometimes kind of feel, because I know we all have our business kind of card that you mentioned, the eyeball QSO card. a lot of times I think it's catered to per se me or the person I'm receiving it from, not so much more just like a general like kind of like everybody can kind of use it and then the information's available to the masses. And it really, that's kind of always been one of my things is I'm always, not that I'm afraid to get new listeners and have new people come on board and, learn about the channel. But in essence, at the same time, if I look at my content and I look at the stuff I have out there, a lot of times it just might be overwhelming for them and not, be kind of geared towards like helping them down the road. So, I made mention, obviously, and Shannon was talking about, was that the trifold POTA brochure. So really quickly, I don't know if you haven't seen this, you can head up to, where is my screen share here? You can head up to the POTA website, and let me go grab the right window here. Where is that? There we go. This is the POTA brochure. So if you've never seen this before, this is a brochure that was created a long time ago from the, let's add you in there, Shannon. Maybe that might help.
Now I'm taking over the stream.
Yes, you are. So let's get rid of this one for some reason. I don't know why. Yeah, we didn't add you in back. So let me remove you. And let me add you back in while I'm talking here. So this is the POTA brochure here real quick. And it is the kind of de facto, brochure that everybody kind of refers to and is, available for, everybody to download. And it's kind of free. Let me add you here, Shannon. It's all right. Let me just drop you in here because apparently this tool is being a pain in the ass today. I'll just cover you over there. There we go. She's now circled and smiley. All right, cool. All right. So it's kind of useful in essence as having something. So if you have nothing to come or start with, the brochure is probably a good place to start. But I find if you look at it and if you've had a chance to read it, it's kind of boring and dry. And for me, I know if I'm handing something to somebody and I'm demonstrating it, what better than to kind of just give them really simple tidbits of information that says, hey, this is what ham radio is. This is what we do. This is why we do it. And then here's a couple of links to go find more information about. The Parks on the Air brochure does a decent job explaining ham radio, but the one thing I struggle with is their description of it. It's like, it's back to that old world emergency stuff. And so I know ham radio for a long time was always the focus, and it still is. I mean, we can't deny it, but it's less per se as a main mode of communication when it comes to disasters and emergencies for a lot of the official agencies. But the thing is that we're stressing that in this brochure to someone who's never had a frame of reference for it. And I feel like we're shortcoming a lot because the hobby's more fun. And Shannon, I when you got into the hobby, did you get in it because it had the emergency component?
No, I got in it because it was fun.
Exactly. Right. And so why, as us as operators, kind of always defer to the emergency side of things. And so it kind of got me thinking, like, why focus on that? Let's talk more and make people think, hey, there's other aspects like talking satellites and CW and all of those things that, we get into that, bottom line is one of those things that we're just doing a disservice with these brochures. So there's that. And so I'm thinking, okay, we need to redefine this a bit. We need to kind of shape this a little bit. And so those in the chat that just kind of jumped in, I saw a few folks that came in. Welcome. If you want to be part of the chat, we're basically just throw in the hashtags, whatever options. The poll is, again, how many times have people come up to you on an average activation and say, what are you doing? And kind of, throw it in there. I'm just curious to see what people are doing. This kind of a little, more for my benefit than anything else in terms of what we're talking about. But you can get in on the chat there. Just use the hashtags. So I thought, like, okay, let's workshop this a bit because I know I've got a lot of smarter people in this chat than myself. And I know a lot of you guys are very active activators and kind of how to deliver maybe your line to folks to say, hey, this is what ham radio is. And so let's see if we can compile that together and put that together in, to some brochure or some one pager, or maybe even think outside the box because I don't know about you. I have a couple of examples that as I'm watching the chat, I'm getting laughs because the tinfoil hat thing that I didn't think would actually fly. Um, the idea would be that, let's come up with a way we can create a material, a business card, a token or something like that, because I'm all about like things that are, fun to have, like, challenge coins or stickers or, things like that can like basically have a longer, they're what I call evergreen. They tend to stick around and people hold on to them because they feel like, oh, they have some value to them versus just a little piece of paper or a trifold, kind of handout that they just, maybe throw in the back of their car and forget about. So we're going to kind of flush that out a little bit, and hopefully we can come up with something. And it doesn't have to be rock solid, because I again, this is building off of what I've been saying since we started Brew and Activate. We're kind of building this Bible or field guide of ham radio, POTA specific stuff. And as we start to add to that, this is going to be one of those components. And it's really just a community driven thing. And so as I start to compile that stuff and it gets a little bigger in size, we're going to start to maybe put that into an online resource that people can help, like a wiki or something to that effect, that, we can all kind of add to and just really just learn from, because there's abundance of tools out there. There's an abundance of websites and things like that. And not everybody knows that, but heck, if I was a brand new activator and I knew there was a resource out there, like a field guide that I could refer to, and it's ever changing and stays, consistently updated, then yeah, I would love to have something like that. So, all right. So let's go a little bit longer here on the chat there, on the poll there. So what I want to kind of plant with you guys is to think about, as you're listening to this stuff and as you hear, Shannon and I kind of process through this stuff, what things do we want to convey to people? And then what do we want to put that into? And then the third step is, what method do we want to deliver it in? Because, we're all relatively young, we'll say. So bottom line is that, let's think about some of the ways that we can come up with like cool ideas, like, a metal business card, or, with a QR code on it, or, a eyeball QSO card, like Shannon was mentioned earlier, or, I don't know, like the sky's the limit. So, if you got some ideas, I'm willing to hear them and throw them in the chat for sure as we kind of get into that. So let's talk really quick here. So we've got a couple of votes here. So, oh, go ahead, Shannon. You got some? Yeah, sorry.
I was just gonna say, I guess
my
chat isn't going to the feed, but so I have Mike 8 Kilo Hotel Charlie in my chat, and he was saying that he has a sign outside his activations asking people to come say hi and ask questions.
Okay.
And that it's great for getting people involved and joining their clubs. So I think that's a great idea to have, maybe like a sign that says, this is who we are, this is what we're doing, and don't be afraid to come ask questions.
Oh, nice. Okay. So like a banner or like a hard, like kind of, I'm curious to see kind of how the signage works, because I don't know about you, but I try to minimize some of my gear to make it portable enough. So like, I know like people will do the POTA flag sometimes that they put up on their side of their car, which I find a little weird or odd, but hey, totally fine. Kind of helps define, what you're doing in the space that you're in. But yeah, if you've kind of got an example or whatever, and you want to throw that into Shannon's chat, she can share that with us here, and we'll definitely add that to the list. But I like that, some signage sounds definitely a good idea. Okay, so yeah, feel free to just push in. Yeah, don't raise your hand. Just cut me off. You know how I am. I'm a chatty, chatty overstepper leader. But that's just me. All right, so let's go to the poll here real quickly. So yeah, in the end, yeah, it sounds like it's a tie. Less than one time, multiple times. Those that selected the tinfoil hat, you know who you are, and I'll be sending it your way. But yeah, multiple times I find I get asked, depending on my location. So if I'm in a remote, park or I'm off to the, off the beaten path and not anywhere, I'll usually get the passerbys. They'll like glance and look. But if I'm out in the open where I kind of set myself up, I get asked a lot, like, what it is all about, what are you doing? What who are you talking to? Because they hear a lot of the audio and whatnot, because I'm a sideband guy. And so I tend to, throw the typical, like, yeah, I'm talking to France, or yeah, I just talked to, California or whatever. And, we all know the reply is, you did what? Who? Like, I'm like, yeah, I didn't actually use my cell phone to call someone who I randomly know in California to say hello, which none of us do here. And if you do that, then I need to know why. But yeah, I mean, that sounds similar to kind of your, MO there, Shannon, when you're out there with folks.
Yeah, so, obviously, like, it kinda depends on where you're going to set up and, how you're setting up, right? Like, if you set yourself up in a little bit more of a public venue, you're more likely to get, people coming by, saying, "Hey, what are you up to?" Than, like, if you're, huddled in your car or, whatever. But,
Yep.
yeah, that's, the couple examples. When I first started, people used to come up to me and they were like, are you doing CB? Or because, especially, people that are maybe like a little bit older, like maybe they're in their, 50s or 60s. They were around for the CB craze of the 70s. So that's sort of like what they are used to, seeing in that kind of, a big vertical antenna or whatever.
Hmm.
And then, the last time it happened to me was actually a few weeks ago when I was at Halibut Point State Park, and it was like, a family that, kind of like was standing behind me because I was set up at the back of the Subaru with my chair, and I was kind of using the back deck of the Subaru as a desk. And, I didn't have any headphones on, which is kind of a bonus, right? Because then they can hear people's voices. And when they hear the person say, like, oh, you're 5 and 9 in the north of Germany, then they're like, what?
Exactly. Yeah. It's for us, it's just kind of like business as usual. But a
Yeah.
lot of times they're like, you just did what? Like, you get that double take all the time. And that for me is a good entry point, because at that point, I don't know about you, I'll stop my activation in the middle of whatever it is, whether it's a pileup or not. And if I have to yell to everybody like, hey, I'm taking a pause, I'll let them know. Most of the time I don't. I just kind of let them figure out where I went, kind of thing. And then, yeah, I'll usually strike back a conversation, and I find I try to keep it as simple as I possibly can. And I am not a great orator when it comes to like coming up with a nice delivery line and a good format. So this is kind of why I'm bringing this to the table, is that, if you're a lot like me and you love the POTA side of things and you love ham radio, most of the time you're not like one of those like, circuit speakers who could literally, spin a phrase, very easily without too much of a problem. So this will hopefully give you guys something to work from, and we can again continue to build off of this and grow. And so just to do a quick pause there, I threw out a bunch of memberships to my channel there, and so I just wanted to say thank you to Prep and Paul. He picked one up. Good to see you in there. K Booty, good to see you this morning. Mike, as always, you're just renewing your membership again. Appreciate that. And looks like we got Greg Lopez, KT4RAM. Oh, very cool call sign. And Peter O. Those guys all thank you again for being channel members, and enjoy the membership, and definitely check stuff out, and appreciate you being part of the channel there.
So Kevin over in my chat, he says he uses a 34.5-foot whip on the Northern California coast, and people ask him if he's fishing.
Wow, 34 feet. My gosh. From
Fishing for contacts, right?
Yeah, right. That's such a cliche at this point. Yeah, like I always find funny, like I would set up my mast on the edge of the back part of the beach, nowhere near the shoreline whatsoever, and fishing. They'd be like, "Oh, are you fishing?" I'm like, no. Like, do you see a lot? Like, are you gonna like worry about the line as you gotta walk under it, kind of thing? It's like, yeah, most people who don't know fishing and don't know ham radio just assume a lot, and so it's just kind of funny and ironic at the same time. It's like, yeah, sure, I'm catching people.
I mean, some people do use fishing rods as masts, so.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's no confusion there. But like a 10-meter mast, which is about 34 feet, you'd have to be crazy, to be able to, like, what fishing are you going after? Like shark? So yeah, although, hey, YouTube's got those weird videos where people throw in drone lines all the way out in the middle of the ocean and, basically pulling them, fish in that way. So it wouldn't surprise me, I guess. So, all right. Yeah. So let's kind of talk through this a little bit. So let me dive over to our lovely whiteboard session here because I love the whiteboard session. The layer, here we go. Let me pull the whiteboard up here because, there's always some technical stuff that I have to do here to make this all work. Okay, so one of the things that I love to do is just whiteboard things. And I know I'm a cliche when it comes to the corporate world here. So my apologies for any of those folks I might insult or, have eye rolls because they already get this at work. Or maybe you're in, a meeting right now and you're listening to us and they're whiteboarding in that same meeting.
Don't give them away.
Exactly. Well, hey, I'm not. Just go to silent mode or, put it in the closed captions. You'll be all set. All right. So with this, let's kind of frame out what we want to put into it first, because I think that's kind of the better way to approach this. And then we can kind of brainstorm and come up with some really cool ideas. And so, like Shannon alluded earlier, obviously, and if you're on her channel there, because they don't combine, sadly, feel free. I'll watch my side of the channel here as well. If you've got some ideas in terms of what we'll call the vehicle of delivery, like, a few mentioned the metal card, or, a trinket or something like that, definitely throw that in the chat. So what I'm thinking here is that we've got to keep this as simple because there's probably what I thought of three categories of people. And, if you think I'm missing one there, Shannon, throw in there, and anybody in the chat, throw in this as well. I'm thinking the three groups of people that we're going to run into, and a lot of times that I can recall from, is one that has no frame of reference. And usually is like, a 20 something, a 30 something, and is probably out, hiking or, being active. And they have no idea what radio is. They have no idea what RF is. They have no idea about, that whole world of wireless or any of that type of communication type stuff. And what they're hearing is just totally like kind of, maybe drawing them towards the Star Wars, kind of the, or something in the background, like as you're spinning the dial kind of thing. The second person I think that kind of fits in that category or next category would be someone who is of the, they're a little older. They may have some technical ability. They may understand, RF. They understand that our cell phones are typically, radios themselves, and maybe have some, place to work from, like Shannon mentioned, CB, that they automatically, think, oh yeah, they must be talking to local truckers, or they might be talking to their best friends, or kind of thing. And then the last person last people group, I think, is probably what I run into a lot of is the older generation and people older than me. And I'm just give you a frame of reference. I'm 50. So, anybody above 55, 60, kind of in that range, even older, that may understood or may have an idea what ham radio is because it was very popular in the 60s and 70s and 50s. It was the main mode of communication. So they had, in some form or fashion, got their information from, neighbors and there was always the ham that was in the neighborhood. You've heard probably many stories of folks going, oh yeah, I had a, ham and he invited me over to his shack kind of thing. And those folks have been maybe out of the hobby for a long time. And so they understand ham radio. They understand what it does and what it means. But at the same time, they've been out of it so much that they don't realize that, they aren't taking their gun set, big old tube radios out in the field, and now we have this small little device that, is no bigger than, a small little laptop. And so those are kind of the three people. Did I think I covered most of them, Shannon? Or anybody I think I might have missed, or anybody in the chat that mentioned anything?
Nope. That sounds about right.
Okay. All right. So let's throw this in here real quick. Let me get the typing. So,
or, actually there is sort of one other type is you get, and I had it like twice, right? When I was at Willowdale State Park, is people who are other ham radio operators, and they, see you with an antenna and a radio, and they come up to you and, you know, actually, it happened to me 3 times. Other ham radio operators came up, and the one guy I told the story, back, I think it was the first week that I was on the show, that he didn't even realize there was like active hams in the area. And
Okay.
then, the other 2 people, I think they said they had been sort of out of the hobby for a while. They mostly did a lot of like VHF, UHF, never really did a lot of HF. Did a lot of public service events, community service events.
We'll say maybe we'll call them like maybe non-active hams.
Yeah, not active hams.
Yeah. All right, cool. All right, so that's kind of our frame of reference, at least. So we've got these 3 key areas. And so the information 9 times out of 10, is going to be for at least that last group, maybe a little simplistic, but enough to kind of get them to make one step further into whatever whatever they need to do to get into back into the ham radio hobby. Because, I too have run into a few folks like that. And a lot of times it's like, they just kind of give you oh yeah, I remember doing that. I haven't been a ham. I haven't been active, blah, blah, blah. And then they kind of walk away. It's like, okay, well, I can see that, you might have had a rough experience or might have, has struggled with something or whatever be the case. So like, yeah, we won't touch, that situation. So, okay. So with the 3 people groups, I think those are a good frame foundation to start with. The next piece is like, okay, well, what do we want to give to them? Like, what can we communicate as ham radio operators? And I know I am horrible at this because I love to get into the technical stuff. Like, how many times have you walked up to Ham Shannon and go, hey, I noticed that 706 Mark II-G over there on the desktop, and I noticed you're tied into a 36-foot end-fed half wave on a 10-meter mast. What coax you run? Like, you kind of get into the lingo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can't do that here because it will like literally go over people's heads. And a lot of times my experience in doing that, when they start to ask about the radio or whatever, I kind of take a pause and stop to not like go overboard and describe to the nth degree what the radio can do and all the filtering, more so hey, this is an HF or high frequency communications device, and kind of explain it from there. So that's kind of where I'm looking to create this document from. And so we're going to kind of tie into a couple of categories, and I'm going to throw these out here for you guys, and you can tell me if we think we need to have more. And feel free to, good to see you there, Walt. I see a few folks in the chat. I apologize. Shannon's the chat master there, so she's keeping everything under control. But good to see a bunch of folks in here this morning. I appreciate you guys hanging out. And so, yeah, so we're going to talk a couple of key areas I think might help us frame this out a little bit. So we're going to talk, obviously, my silly Windows here. Windows loves to expand things so much here. Okay, so we are going to minimize this a little bit here so we can shrink things down here and add more. All right. I'm thinking title-wise, or areas that we probably want to focus in building this guide is, first and foremost, what is ham radio? And with that, let me make that bigger so everybody can see it. Come on. All right. What is ham radio? And so that's a broad topic. And we can all screw it up very royally, very fast. And
it's almost easier to say what is not ham radio.
You could do that, yes. And I was thinking that too. But I'm thinking that the definition, as we look on ARL and you Google it and you chat GPT it and whatnot, I kind of spent a little time compressing that down. And so I'm going to put together what I have here, and maybe this might resonate with you, or maybe it might be just too overly crazy, but let's add here. I'll throw it in here. And so this is my what is ham radio. And so let me widen this here again. Come on. This tool is lovely, but at the same time, it's also a pain in the butt. Okay, let's shrink this down because it's too big. Drag this. Yeah, see, like I said, whiteboard. I'm really just sniffing all the markers here and really not, doing anything important. Come on. Oh, why is this doing this? Make it align. Okay, so here's my definition, and I'm sorry if it's rolling off the screen here. Let's go. Yeah. This is YouTube Live, as we all like to say. All right. So here's the definition. So ham radio, or what I always put in parentheses, also called amateur radio, which we barely ever refer to it unless we were talking proper. It's a hobby that lets people use radios to talk to others locally or around the world without relying on the internet or cell phones, which I thought was very important to deliver. Operators, also called hams, use special radio equipment to send voice, text, pictures through the airwaves. It's all about communication, experimentation, and community.
Sounds about right.
Okay. All right. So I think that's a good basis to build from, because in essence, it clearly helps us define what the hobby is without getting into the aerial organization and how many hams we have in the, the world, and whether we do emergency communications and all that stuff, because all that stuff is important, but I don't think it encompasses ham radio in a way that, really makes it, available to the world. Because I think that's one of the things a lot of people, when I talk to them, walk away from, going, oh, well, I can't do it because I'm too technical, or come on, stop shrinking down here. Or I don't have a background in, whatever be the case, because it impedes them. This does not want to roll. All right. Let's go there. Let's get this centered here. Okay. So what is ham radio? And so I think that's a good definition to start from. Then what's the next thing you can think of that we should basically deliver topic wise? Shannon, do you have a rough guess?
Well, it's kind of like we learn in school, right? Like the 5 W's, like who, what, where, when, why, how.
Yes. Yep. Someone's on the same chain here. Okay. I get it. So yeah, with that, then obviously following Shannon's suit here, the next one is what can you do with ham radio? All right. Well, yeah, there's a butt ton of stuff, and I won't go into all the details, but I kind of broke this down, and so maybe if I'll give you some of the high level topics for folks, but I won't get into all of the descriptions I had with it. And so just so I can allude to the if you haven't been on the Discord itself, I posted this whole PDF up there, and so if you go grab from the show notes, there is a link there. And if Shannon can, if you remember to grab it, Shannon, you can post it in the chat there for folks to join. If not, it's in the description below. This PDF's there. And so feel free to use it, add to it, change it. But my only ask is that if you do that, just share it with the rest of the community. Come back and say, hey, I've modified this, or I added this, or you might have missed this. Because in essence, it's helping all of us as a whole to then use it as a tool to be able to just get out to the rest of the world. So our couple of first topics that I'm kind of thinking of, what can you do with ham radio? Well, obviously the first one, which we sort of alluded to, is you can talk locally or worldwide. That's pretty obvious. I mean, we all know that, most of the ham radio, when we're out there doing POTA activation specifically, yeah, you're talking with folks, you're making contacts. If you're CW folks, you're definitely making, contacts through CW, and may, attract somebody who might not ever know CW. And then at that point opens up another conversation and discussion. But yeah, it's all about communication. And so I think that was kind of an important to start from. And so let me go here.
Or you can even talk to space.
Yeah. Well, yes. More so. Yeah. The ISS repeater. Yes. I'm thinking now that I'm thinking more just like back and forth FT4, whatever that other mode is, FW4, whatever. But yes, you can talk to space. We all have witnessed the ISS student connections there as well. All right. Well, this one I had to put in here because we have all of our Aries focus. It's important. Help during emergencies. This is definitely one of those things that does pop up on the news from time to time, especially when we see, things related to, disasters, hurricanes, tornadoes, that type of stuff. Ham radio definitely helps out in that sense. So want to make sure that we get into that. And so in that document that I just referenced, that has all the description there. So I won't bore people with the descriptions, but it will kind of gives a very clear, plain, concise, thank you, ChatGPT, of being able to define, what each of these areas are. This one, this goes out to my buddies and folks that love to be able to build, experiment, tweak, all that type of stuff. it gives you that license to be able to experiment and build things with. Is very, I think, important because a lot of folks love to tinker. I mean, the hacker community, how many times you can go online and find Raspberry Pis and all of the, I'm trying to think, Flipper Zeros, and the whole, that whole community. There's a lot of folks out there that like to tinker and explore and learn. Again, Ham Radio Hobby gives you that added benefit. This one is right up my alley because I think the reason why, obviously, you're talking to this person and they're in the park with you. They're out being active. They're out maybe hiking. They're out, walking their dog. They're out enjoying the outdoors. I mean, that was always the push with Parks on the Air. I think that's an important area to obviously make sure we highlight and bring to attention because we all love to bring our ham radio gear with us. We all love to hike with it. I always bring my HT with me everywhere I go. I may not, take it out all the time, but I always try to carry a radio with me in some form or fashion and make that effort. I know Josh of Ham Radio Crash Course has encouraged folks to do that. And so, and maybe HR2O did it too as well. Do you carry your radio with you a lot, Shannon?
Actually, you bring up a very good point, and if I could tell a little bit of a quick story.
Yep.
So, like I said, I went to that World War II reenactment this Saturday, or this past Saturday at the American Heritage Museum in Hudson, Mass. And I brought my HT with me, and I was programmed to 14652. And
Okay.
I got there and I called out and I said KC1 OHT listening. And someone actually came back to me, another ham radio operator. His call was K1RMC, if I remember correctly. He lives in Manchester, New Hampshire.
Oh, wow.
And
That's all.
he was there as part of the reenactment group. He was reenacting for the German troops. So
Wow.
after the 11 a.m. reenactment, I ended up meeting up with him and having a little eyeball QSO with him. Gave him one of my cards and one of my stickers, and he was really appreciative. And he was kind of surprised, actually. He was like, yeah, I brought my radio with me and I decided to turn it on just in case, somebody called out. And I was really surprised that somebody did, which, I did call out a couple more times. I heard him call out a couple times and there wasn't really anybody else that came back to us. But, I think that's a great idea is, no matter where you're going, especially if you're going to something like a big community event like that,
Yeah.
bring a HT, put it on the calling frequency, give your call sign and not just once, but, give it, every half an hour or hour or something, just say hey, I'm listening, I'm here,
Yep.
meet up. Meet up with some other ham radio operators, at these different community events.
Yeah, actually, good points with that because, I would take one step further. Maybe you, when you say community events, I think the community events is a big blanket in the sense that even non-ham radio type areas where communication is kind of accepted or widely used. So I take my radio with me to when my wife wants to go to craft fairs and stuff like that. And so I'll have my little signal stick popping out the back of my thing. And of course I get my eye rolls from my wife every once in a while. But I'll leave 5.2 on, but I'll also turn on APRS with my little 3D. And basically just, beacon out my, location and stuff like that. And I'm doing it because I'm trying to make it more norm versus the odd stuff of why people carry around HTs and all that stuff. But more so I do every once in a while get a look, or I'll get someone ask hey, what was that related to? And, I can kind of have a conversation real quickly, which then gets me back to okay, what can I give them? Because at this point I'm not doing a POTA activation and I'm not really doing anything except maybe having a general, a Q&A with that person. So yeah, having something that I could give them, a card or, a trinket or, something like that would allow them to get further into the hobby, might open that door more. So yeah, good story there. So let's grab this next one here. So obviously great outdoors, hikers, parks, all that type of stuff. Always a great way to continue the move. So the next one is compete and challenge yourself. And this kind of rolls into obviously POTA. a little bit because there are folks that we do paper chasing and we all love to, compete and challenge one another. Obviously put that challenge out. So if you are new to the channel here, again, welcome, but more so, we've got a web page up that folks are putting their end of the year goals, POTA goals in there. And so we're trying to add to that as we continue to, grow. And we're going to try to challenge each other. So we'll follow back up in a couple episodes, see how people are doing. Hopefully, maybe at the end of the year, we can have a whole big shindig and everybody can come on and kind of share their experiences. And maybe we'll hopefully get closer to, making more inroads to doing more POTA and becoming better activators. So, and hunters for that matter, too, as well. We can't leave the hunter guys out because they are our lifeblood and support. So that kind of doves into challenging yourself. And it's very much, I think that's important. The yourself is important, but more so, those are in and around you too as well. So I would add the, as a community kind of thing. This next one, let's clear this here a little bit, is Shannon's, obviously, use satellites and talk to space. How many of us, even do that? I kick myself all the time because the ISS has passed over my house several times. And do you think I get my butt out there to be able to make a contact with them? No. And I regret it every time. So, it is a good way to communicate that and show that to folks. And let them know that it does exist and that we do it frequently and have the capabilities and availability to do it. All right, next one here, flying through, experiment with digital modes. This is always important to stress because traditionally we all know communications is an analog thing, right? We all talk, we all use a microphone. Most of us do, I should say, at least the CW folks that don't, they pound on brass, but same thing, right? Yeah, you're busy in the chat.
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm paying attention to the chat.
I know
they're talking about the 10 dB gain that YL voices get.
Oh yeah, that's a guarantee that that we can't put that in the brochure, but yes, we should put that as an addendum. And it's wow, apparently inflation's kicked in because it used to be 5 dB gain, now it's 10, so things are going up. So yeah, digital modes are an important mode of the hobby, and definitely something to show and demonstrate to folks and let them know that heck, we are lockstep with a lot of the computers and technology that's out there already. Community. We all love community. I mean, that's what, heck, we have a ham YouTuber community. Walt's in the chat. There's Chris in Radio Life. I mean, there's a whole bunch of YouTubers here today, and we're all doing ham radio in some form or fashion. So, we're doing it to show it and demonstrate it, but more so we do love to do it, and we love to do it with other people. So I think that is an important, and community can expand above and beyond and into other facets. Like, I see a lot of crossover with RV life and ham radio, ham radio and overlanding, and the list goes on and on and on and or radio, basically, military reenactments in ham radio. So there is crossover with this hobby. It's we always know is the hobby of 1,000 hobbies has always been what it's called and communicated to me. So yeah, it's all about the community, all about getting people in it. All right, so I think those are kind of some good general stuff to talk. Again, they were very high level. They're really meant to be able to just help refresh those that have been in the hobby or may have been in the hobby at one time and left and didn't go back in. May give, a more of a little bit of a nibble to those that, fall into those 3 people groups again, who have a little bit of understanding communication to know that this is available and that's out there and that they can participate in it. And, the entry level to it is very, I won't say low, but it's not super complex to get into, and it's pretty cost effective. And then it also helps describe to people who have no foundation whatsoever about what ham radio is. Okay. So go ahead.
So have you ever seen this documentary called Ham that came out in 2022?
I did. Is that the one with they talked about satellite guys and
it was based in Montana.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I love that documentary. I think that's a great documentary to show to people that might not, really know too much about what ham radio is. I think it touches on a lot of good different points, including, they talk about the community and the camaraderie.
Yeah,
they show some digital, they show some CW, they show some satellite, Earth, Moon, Earth. Like that's That's stuff that impresses people. It
It
impresses
does.
me.
But so here's the only thing with that caveat with that video that I saw when it came out rolling through everybody's kind of feed. One, where did they focus on everybody in their shacks? Again, what is POTA? We don't go to our shacks. We don't, I mean, obviously hunters do, but from a most POTA community, we're all outdoors, we're all activating, we're all portable. We're kind of, they didn't do a lot, I think, in that sense. And again, it was 2022, although 2022 was still POTA. I mean, POTA was still growing and still an active kind of area. I think they missed a little bit on that. And they did cover a little bit of kind of the club's community stuff, but I think they could have gotten away from like, because when I became a ham 30 years ago, and I'll just give you a quick story. My biggest struggle, and we always hear this a lot, is like you can get in cheaply. Well, at the time I couldn't, but now you can. You can get in pretty cheaply with a couple of HTs and small radios and general. But that next gap is so big to getting to radios and what you want that a lot of people get turned off by it, because you go from a $30 to $50 device, maybe $100, and then the next jump is either $600 or $1,500 in terms of price to get into that space. And so for a lot of folks, new hams, that's a little bit of a sticker shock to get kind of used to. It's something, obviously, it's been there since the dawn of time when I, started in the hobby. There was no low, cheap Chinese junk whatsoever. It was you bought Yaesu, Kenwood, ICOM, or Alinco, and that was the four you got. And all of those radios were like almost what we pay for $1,000. I mean, they weren't cheap by any stretch. And so it was always tough. I mean, my first HT my parents bought me, and that one was over $400 or $500 for a kid who was in high school, and that's like insane. So that's kind of a struggle, I think. And so they showed all of those big giant arrays, and I'm like, oh, those are cool, but at the same time, like, I can't touch that. I'll never have 30
Right.
acres in the middle of nowhere to set up a giant satellite array to make a contact. So that's why I love folks like Walt and Ham Radio Tectonics. I'm just rambling a few guys off here. All you guys get out there. You all get outside. You all set up wire antennas, and you all just do like portable operation in a way that people can connect to. And it's not super expensive. I mean, for less than $800, you can probably have a full setup and get out there and do stuff. And so that's what I love about POTA, is like it lowered that bar enough to get people to continue instead of just getting their ticket and then realizing I can't get any further. So, all right. So I think that is kind of the two topics. The last one I think I want to talk before I have a call to action in this document is the one thing that we always profess here, and I know a lot of folks talk about already, is let's go. Oh, come on. Where's the tool? Is why we love it. Because we have to talk about it. And why would you want to encourage somebody to get in the hobby if you didn't love it? And so I think there's like kind of four things here, and we alluded to a lot of it. But from a standpoint of adding to that list, and let's bump some of this stuff out of here so I can create more space, because I only have so much, is why people love it. And so here are my four or five things I think are, kind of important. Is it's hands-on and interactive. We all know it. We all love it because it's exactly that. I mean, Shannon, you didn't get into it for the antenna theory, did you?
Not really.
Nor did I. Like
Some
a lot of times
people do, though. Some people are very technically minded, and they
I
like
agree.
that part.
But I think if you look at all of the people we connect with, and we have friends and relationships across the board, what do you feel most of them do? Most of them have a strong engineering background and either work in electronics or in that sense, or the folks you hang around with are more what I call like appliance operators, because they do it because they have fun and they get to experiment?
I don't know. I think it's kind of a mix.
Oh, okay.
I think there's a lot of people that are in it that are like electrical engineers and RF theory and
Well, you're going to be very disappointed because nobody on the Live Free and Ham crew is. I mean, outside of maybe Tortoise. Tortoise is in the industry and he does radio. But a lot of folks I run into, I think most of their backgrounds are in IT or in computers and that type of stuff. So software is kind of a good mix. But when it comes to actually building circuits, I couldn't tell you the difference between a resistor and a potentiometer or a resistor and a, capacitor. Although I studied for it, I mean, that's the extent of it. And, that's the nice part about, I think, of the hobby is that because I can eventually get there, you can eventually decide that, hey, I want to start building, kits, and I want to start building circuits, and, I want to start learning how those little electrons travel from one device to another to make things, happen and my voice translate. So, yeah, I think stressing that it's a hands-on and interactive is really important. And it's one of those things that I know a lot of us do, even when we have someone who's new to the hobby. What do? We invite them in. We say, here, go ahead, grab the mic, try, making a contact. And they don't even have to have a license because, we're operator control and stuff. But yeah, that's important. Like having that interactive component brings and draws them in and gives them that thrill, because I all love the thrill. I mean, we all can relive our first time we picked a mic, right?
Yeah, I mean, the first time you get that, like, DX contact, the first time you talk to, someone in Poland or Switzerland, or the first time you talk to someone in like Oregon or California or Washington State or Hawaii, it's like pretty exciting. And
Yeah.
I think, I said somewhere else that calling CQ is like a box of chocolates, right? You never know what you're going to get. So it's a little bit of like, a licensed version of chat roulette.
Oh man, I can't pull it up quick enough. I'm trying to find my, anyway, I'll figure out where it is. I know it's in there somewhere. So yeah, it is very true. I mean, obviously, I'm not a big fan of a box of random chocolates, so I always get the crappy ones all the time. But that's just me personally.
There are no crappy contacts though in ham
no,
radio.
there are
so
not. And when it comes
safe.
to the truly ham radio, but using that analogy, 9 times out of 10, I always end up, by the time I got in the box, it was one of those things that I was always the bad ones, the weird tasting ones, because everyone ate all the good stuff. So it's definitely a good play. So interactive is definitely important. So the next one I got here on my list is it connects people everywhere. And I think that's one thing we have to stress as a hobby. It's like, even though we have short bursts of giving a signal report, whatever, every once in a while we do have a conversation. We'll, have a rag chew, we'll ask somebody, or somebody will engage us and, they'll ask us about what's going on. That is important because it helps builds that connection, and connection is, why we do part of this hobby, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, definitely. Well, it needs to be stressed. And so I think, it'll draw those folks in. Obviously, when someone does come up and asks you, they're brave enough to actually have a conversation with you. So, they're already like set up to want to pick up a microphone and start having conversations, because they're the perfect folks to, be on 20 meters and have a random rag chew with someone over in Europe, in the middle of the day. So yeah, get them involved. Feel free to, communicate that, stress that it's connecting people everywhere to everything kind of thing. So, all right, next one here. It's useful in emergencies, which we all know. I mean, I try to stress more and more, if you're into that whole EDC type of stuff, because I saw it fly by a little bit early in the chat. Yeah, it's useful in emergencies. It's one of those things that, I alluded to earlier, having my HT with me everywhere I kind of go, having my radios and my truck and all of those things ready and set up, and just getting myself out there, making more noise, engaging more people. So it's definitely a useful component in emergencies, and kind of helps stress, that. I mean, because it's a good for maybe some of those folks that are maybe a little bit of preppers, or maybe they're like a little bit more concerned with, the climate and where we're at and how they can deal with, hurricanes and disasters like that, or, being prepared for, their own family and stuff. So always helping them, expand their knowledge in that sense. Next one for me, and I'm flying through these a little bit here, guys, but, the document, like I said, is over on our Discord under N1JUR Brew Activate's channel. So feel free to go in and look at the descriptions. Again, this is a community document, so I want to keep adding to this. I want to keep, improving upon it, and getting us, more, useful, making it more useful for when we do POTA activations, or when we're out, doing the hobby and people are asking. So obviously educational and skill building, like we alluded to, building kits, or, doing, sets for Aries, or whatever be the case. There's always some way we're always improving our skills. Like my goal, Shannon, I don't know if you have the same one, is that when I go out to do a POTA, I've got a running log in my document of like when I forget something or I don't do something or this could be improved upon. I always leave a little note for myself to be able to improve that. Do you kind of do that when you're doing your activations, or you just got your system rock solid?
I mean, there are things that I keep in my head, but I'm not like a list maker.
Okay. I know
I don't
grouches.
I don't know what that is. Is that like a type A personality that people have to make lists for everything?
It's a lefty type A firstborn kind of thing. Come on, get with the program here.
Apparently, I was left behind because I am a lefty and a firstborn,
So
so
so so this is just not for talking. This is for list making too. This is what I use that for all the time. Yeah. So I think in skills, and Shannon, you'd agree, I'm sure, always improving your skills is something that is attractive to why you're in this hobby. Is that you're not locked in at a level. You can always continue to get better.
right, it's all about, like you said, experimentation, and sort of bettering your station, bettering your operations, learning new things, learning new modes, trying new radios and antennas.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, just ham radio tectonics. Yeah, you can leave a note to yourself, but it's not going to help here unless you go back and watch the replay. So, okay, cool on that one. The next two I think are really, kind of more what I'll call fluff kind of items, but they're still very important to kind of stress. It's obviously a hobby with endless variety. We've talked about that. It's the hobby of 1,000 hobbies. So, we're not tied to, or, you're not locked into just doing ham radio, like stamp collecting, like you just do stamps, but hobby, ham radio hobby goes far and wide and deep. And it attracts a lot of people for different reasons. And everybody is welcome to kind of be part of that. And then the last one I've got here for just why we do, or why people love it. And this one, I know a lot of us stress, especially when we're trying to, make sure that everybody has a say. It's being inclusive and welcoming. I think that's important. Like I alluded to in the POTA Minute, it's important to help others, kind of be successful in what they're trying to do, because in essence, they're going to do that same thing to the next person down the line, and so forth and so on. So it kind of becomes contagious, and it establishes a good base, because we can all be jerks, when we want to, but not in ham radio. Come on. I mean, this is a hobby. This is fun. Like I could, basically be an a-hole to Shannon, but Shannon loves hanging out with us because we all are, we're all equals. We're all, hey, learning from each other. We're all supporting each other. And that's, I think very important. And very welcoming. I'm like, I've hung around with Walt. Like Paul and I did an activation. Walt was up here in the New England area for work, and he's like, hey, let's go do an activation. So we went down to Marconi's, radio wireless site, and we activated. But then it wasn't after that. It's like, heck, we're going to go to lunch. We're going to get some seafood. We're going to hang out. And my wife came, and she's not a ham. But you think, when all was done, that she'd be like, hey, I love hanging out with these guys. It was just so awesome just to, have conversation and talk to them about other things and life and all other stuff. And so, again, it's like endless variety, and everybody kind of has, a way to kind of plug in and say hello and be part of whatever it is they want to be part of. So, again, keeping that welcoming component, especially in this document, I think is important. So anything, I think, what do you think of it? This list pretty good there, Shannon? Anybody in the chat have any comments? I've been not paying attention.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you about, being inclusive and welcoming, and we all know that there are those kind of like sad, salty hams out there that, for some reason, I don't know why, they like to, hate on POTA, or they hate on new operators because back in my day you had to know CW, or you know
Yep.
like we're
Right.
taking over the bands, or whatever it is that they want to complain about at the time. But the hobby is so much more, not just about, operating, right, or building the radios, but it is about like building a community and the camaraderie and the friendship and the communication. So if we want to like continue to have more people to talk to, then we kind of have to be like good ambassadors of amateur radio, right? And as POTA activators, especially since we are the ones that are going out and being more public facing to people, we want to put our best foot forward, right? And
Exactly.
kind of be those good ambassadors that we can be, and be as friendly and welcoming as we can be. And I think like Sean had said in the chat back at the very beginning, if somebody sent him an email asking, how do you activate this park? Do you have any tips or tricks? Like, he wouldn't just email him back. He'd actually invite him out to like come do a POTA with us and see what it's all about. And I think that's, you know, for someone who's at that level that they're already a ham radio operator, but maybe they want to get started in POTA, that's probably like the best possible thing that you can do is, have a group POTA. And I'm actually trying to put together a group POTA for my group for next Thursday, October 23rd, to kind
Sweet.
of show, some of the ham radio operators that are part of the Pocahontas net, how I do a POTA activation, what I bring, what it's all about, um, you know,
Very cool.
and try to get them started.
Yeah, dude. Depending on when you do that, let me know, and I'll get it on the plate there. I'd love to come hang out with you guys, and definitely, activate wherever you're going to be.
Yeah.
I haven't done a lot of mass stuff in a while, and I'm, getting my
Well,
POTA itch.
I'll put it out there right now. We're planning on being at Willowdale State Forest on the Linebrook Road side, right down the street from Marini Farm Stand, on Thursday, October 23rd. Hopefully the weather is good. Probably gonna be getting there around like maybe 9:30 in the morning, and starting our activation around 10 a.m. We're going to have at least one station going, my station, but possibly two stations. So it'll be like mostly like kind of a parking lot activation. They do have a couple picnic tables, but it's not going to be any kind of like, no far hiking in, nothing strenuous, just kind of a little bit of, a little bit of fun and frivolity, and hopefully some education as well.
Cool. Yeah, dude. And that's a perfect example. It's like bringing more people into the fold from no matter what walk of life, whether they're brand new POTA, activators, or they've been doing it for a little while and they just need a little bit more, kind of insider, well, I hate the phrase, but insider training, a trading of ham radio stuff, and learning, everything they can about, maybe other people's setups. Because, dude, I don't know about you, but when we do POTA meetups, the same thing. I mean, we've got a club POTA meetup for Sports Parks weekend, and we're doing that at Clough State Park in Ware. Yes, I said Ware, New Hampshire. There is a place such as that. And it's the same thing. Like, they're all going to get together for 4 or 5 hours, and they're going to activate there, and they're going to share stuff. They're going to set up a bunch of antennas, awesome conversation, some great food, or great friendship and that type of stuff. So yeah, always promote those things. Love to see it. A couple of things, obviously, I wanted to just bring to attention before we kind of get to the last part here is Prep Ham Paul mentioned very early on that he's unable to provide anything regularly useful. I disagree with you 100% there, Paul. You obviously, even if you've done it a couple of times, you still have a lot more knowledge than, say, someone who doesn't have anything to come from. Sometimes I go by the adage of fake it till you make it kind of a little bit, and it'll help you kind of get, more into maybe doing more POTAs, because then you realize, well, hey, I really don't have enough time. I need to carve out more time in my schedule. So yeah, don't worry that you can't be part of this and help contribute, because, you definitely bring a lot to the table, especially obviously because you are an ambassador of ham radio with your channel for sure. So, and then the last one, Ham Radio Tectonics. Yes, I saw that last live stream. I thought it was hilarious because literally it was Vaughn and Julie on either side and then Ham Radio Tectonics right there in the middle. And they were just kind of like passing the mic back and forth. And I just kind of laughed because it was like a weird scenario. It was like, this is my other brother, Daryl kind of thing. I don't know how it all played out, but it was a good live stream to watch for sure. So, thanks for the laugh and the entertainment, especially. Those guys are great in getting out there and doing some really cool stuff with POTA and getting them back involved in the hobby. So, all right. So, anything else come up in the chats there a little bit, Shannon? You want to throw out there, or should we just get to the last point here?
No. I think we can. I think we can just move on to the next point.
Okay.
We got a few people didn't know that I had a channel, and they're subbing to me. So,
wow. Awesome.
Who was it? It was Ham Radio Tectonics and the Hillbilly Ham Kilo Echo 6 Golf Alpha Echo.
Awesome. Thanks, Bill and everybody. Good to see you guys. And Shannon's got a very unique channel. We're encouraging her here. She's on the Northeast Ham Radio, which I will put a plug in later at the very end for folks. Because we're talking Support Your Parks weekend type of stuff, but we'll talk about that after. And she's a part of that. She hangs around with all of the Live Free and Ham guys and crew. So, yeah, we love Shannon, and go over and sub her and like her channel for sure. She's doing some really cool stuff there, especially if you like war reenactments and tanks and guns and not like shooting guns, but like the old military kind of stuff. So really cool stuff. And just going to put a plug in. You did that awesome walkthrough video of Fort McCleary. I have never been up there when they've done either their reenactment setups or their walkthrough when the tower is available to walk through. And so, like, you made my day when I was like, oh, wow, I can actually see what's in that building, that I always go by when it's closed and locked up. So it was really cool.
That's awesome. Actually, I would love to go back. That was a great place to activate. So actually, I think, you know what? Paul told me that he needed to activate Maine. And at first I said Mount Agamenticus, but maybe Fort McCleary might be the better spot to go. So Paul, if you're watching,
no, he's not.
Let me know.
So, all right. So yeah, that is one of my favorite places. One of my very early activations that I did when I started to do states and stuff like that. So I love the Fort McCleary. Very, very cool place. So all right, so we're going to talk the last part. So we've already kind of done the lead up to this point. So we've talked about why you'd want to do it, how what the cool parts of it. And then the last part is, well, hey, we want to kind of do what we call in the marketing space a call to action. So how do you get started? And I wanted to keep this as simple as possible. And so what I did was boiled this down with the idea that, we're really not trying to complicate this because, in essence, there's already a crap ton of stuff out there on the internet that people can Google and find. But the idea was to okay, well, get a license, join a club, get a radio kind of thing. And I would probably put get a radio before joining a club. But, your mileage may vary either way. The idea is really just kind of give them 3 simple things that they can take, because I know as a human, I can't take more than 3 things. My wife would tell me exactly that, I struggle sometimes with 2 items unless she sends me a list. So, it's one of those things that 3 simple things. And those 3 simple things gives them the tools to start to do a little bit more work if they decide to. And I think with all the stuff that we covered prior to this and up to this point, it's going to get them to that thing, because maybe they might be looking for something that, they're looking for the connection of community and, they like dabbling electronics. They like communicating. All of those components that we kind of built up to, then this will get them to that next phase. And there's plenty of resources out there that you can easily throw in the Google Foo and boom, they'll be able to get their answers pretty quickly and get going. I would even do this if you're, kind of tailoring this, say for maybe your club or like you're doing a POTA meetup and you have a bunch of people that meet in a non-formal way. Yeah. If you have a website or a Facebook page or something that, can get them, that won't confuse them, but give them the tools to get further down the rabbit hole and meet us in Wonderland. Then that's all the better for that. So so I think those are the 3 kind of key areas. And so all of that's in that PDF document that we have over on the Discord. And you can find that again in the link below. And I'll actually, now that I have the link here, I have it in my notes here. So let me throw that in the chat for folks. Let me get rid of the show. This is our Discord. If you're not part of our Discord, you can head on over and join there, and then come on over to the N1JR Brew and Activate and the documents there. And we're always having some awesome conversation at the Live Free and Ham Discord. And you can also find, Shannon there. You can find myself. You can find Tortoise has got his own channels. Grouch is over there as well. We've got Northeast Ham Radio. So there's a slew of a whole bunch of different people and a whole bunch of walks of life. So come be a part of it. It's a great conversation. It's fun to hang out. And we talk about everything under the sun, radio-wise, and great group of people for sure. So, all right, there's kind of the basis that we're built from. So let's talk about the fun stuff. Like, now that we got this great information, I don't want to just create another trifold, option. What are some ideas, and feel free to throw these in the chat, that you guys think would be good, fun ways to, create? I mean, obviously I'm thinking, like, if I go to here real quick. So this is something I did for my club here. This is a little card that on it is one of our club members is a great, photographer. I wish I could zoom in. There we go. And so we borrowed one of his pictures, and it's got our club logo here on the left-hand side, my right. And then it says, "What is ham radio?" And then on the other side is a nice little QR code here and a little bit of a blurb. And that basically just lets someone from their, camera phone scan the QR code, and it goes to our club website, and they're able to get more information. It leads them to license testing and stuff like that. I usually tend to keep a lot of these with me when I'm doing POTA, but it's club focused, and that's not a bad thing. And it's a great tool. And if you're interested in, getting one of these or the QR code, head over to the Discord, let us know, and I can post it in there. You can see what we did for our club website page. That is a landing page for this. But I wanted to do something that was more generic, because a lot of us might not be in a club. A lot of us might not, be, because of where they are in their life or whatever, but having something like this available is something important. And so I'm more than willing to come up with whatever the method might be. And, I'm always open to suggestions down there. Is that if there's like a website source, like, say, the one thing that comes to mind is Internet Archive or something like that, where we can create this content and make it live, but accessible by everybody in the community, with the purpose that anybody can reference to it or refer to it. You can create your own QR codes to point to it, kind of thing. Yeah, basically, if you know of a site or a solution out there that, offers something like that, then, point it to me, hit me up in the Discord, email me, let me know, because I can host this up on my own website. But again, I don't want it to be tagged as like owned by me, because it's not. It's part of that whole field guide we were talking about, and it's going to be available to anybody who wants it and wants to add to it as well, because it's a working live document. So the idea is, let's create a site, let's create a place for it, and then people can refer to it. But at the same time, what mechanisms, and let's kind of talk about some of the fun stuff. What creative ways can we kind of create some materials or handouts outside of maybe just like a card with a QR code on it that might be creative enough? Like, I don't have them with me, and I should go grab them. For those that might know, let me go wheel over and grab it real quick, because unless you've got the hammy with you. Do you have a hammy?
Oh, no, I do not have a hammy.
Let me go grab them.
I don't even own a hammy. But, I think one thing we have to keep in mind is, like, what is the attention span of your average person these days, right? Like, people are, into the TikToks. Like, how long is a TikTok? Like a minute or something, Yeah, so it's like, what kind of like fast, sort of rapid fire, YouTube short, TikTok kind of things can we do that sort of will grab people's attention and, give them some information, maybe in quick rapid fire bursts?
Yep. Yeah, that's a good idea too. Maybe a series, like, is there a way to series oh, there we go. Sorry, I was just typing up the link here. So what I was going to show you guys, and this is not so much for this specific, but you might have heard, we've got, and I've sent these out to a bunch of different people and they picked them up, what we call our little hammy. This is our kind of calling card. So long time ago, I was printing my QSL cards out and sticking them on people's windshields when I saw someone who had antennas on their car, and not like just the conventional antennas, but ham radio antennas. We all know what those cars look like. We all are on the lookout for them kind of thing. So I was like, there's got to be some cool way. And then obviously my daughter's a Jeeper, so she's got all of her ducks on the dash, which drive me bonkers, but they're still pretty cool. And so I'm like, there's got to be something out there that we could do for the ham world. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, let's create this small little token. So I have this small little pig that's no bigger than, say, my thumb size. In general, as I'm holding it the wrong way. And then we have these little token cards at the bottom, and I don't know if you can make that up because it won't focus. It says, "You've been hammed," and then there's a small little space to write your call sign in it. And then there's a little double-sided tape you fix to the bottom of the ham. And then you get to be the cool guy and go over on their car and drop something on a handle or put it on their dash or put it into some visible way. And these things, stand out. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone over and done it. I've filmed a few of them, so you can go over to my YouTube shorts and check them out. And Bill says he got one from Paul. Yep, he was handing a bunch of those out at Montesano. And so cool on that. And so, yeah, you can just, as you see people out there, it's kind of a really cool way. I'll share a short story. My wife and I were at Costco, and I saw a guy in the parking lot who had antennas on his car. And so I said to my wife as we were walking back, I got to go grab a hammy out of my car. I filled in my call sign, went over and put it on the handle, and then I walked back to the truck, and I was going to drive away. My wife's like, no, we have to stay and watch. And I'm like, no, we don't. This is weird. We can't stay and watch. And she's like, no, I want to stay and watch and see what he does. And so we literally sat in the parking lot for 45 minutes until they finally came out. And, while he came out, I put it right there on his door handle. And I know in this day and age, some people get a little weird. You obviously hear all the horror stories about don't touch your windshield wipers when you're in a weird parking lot kind of thing and all of the bad stuff. But he saw this on his door frame or on his door handle when he went to go grab it. And he picked it up and he kind of looked at it. My wife was like watching him like, what's he doing? Like, what?
Did she have binoculars?
We were close enough that thank God she didn't. I mean, it wasn't like we were parked literally right next to him, but we were like a few aisles over, enough to see him in direct line of sight. And he literally had it. He looked at it and he's like, oh, kind of dropped in his car, and you can see him talking to his wife, and he kind of had it there. And my call sign was on it. So at that point, I turned to my wife, I'm like, are you satisfied now? Can we move from this parking lot and go where we have to go? And so she's like, yeah, sure, no problem. So we pulled out of the parking lot. I made sure I wasn't obvious driving by him. So I drove all the way around to avoid him. And I left the parking lot. And of course, I'm driving down in New Hampshire. We have basically the main thoroughfare and the main part of the city. And we're getting up to lights. And all of a sudden, I'm looking out my side mirror in my truck. And of course, I've got my call sign all over my truck, so you can't miss it. And this guy was chasing me down. He literally came up right beside me. And I'm looking out like in my mirror, and I'm like, okay, I see a guy with antennas. This can't be good. I know this is probably the guy from his car. And of course, he pulls up, and his wife's in the passenger seat, and she rolls down the window at the light. And he's like, hey, I got your hammy. He's like, that's really cool. And, he basically gave me a thumbs up, and his wife, you could tell, sitting in the back seat with her, kind of leaning back, and she's rolling her eyes. And of course, my wife's getting a kick out of it. So all in all, it was just a fun little quick story with the idea that, these are, kind of a cool little token to say, hey, I recognize you. So thinking along those lines, like, what would we want to do to capture someone's attention that we have an interaction with? Like, I was thinking, like, I mentioned earlier, a little metal aluminum card that maybe has a QR code, emblazoned on it that allows them to go to a website that you can create that content, or something unique that they can, you can put a little tag on that says, go to this website for more information about ham radio, but make it interesting, because what's going to happen, and I know like when I get flyers and stuff from, events and stuff, I kind of take it and they just chuck it, in the back seat of my car, or I, put it off the side. But I know people that, and I've seen these in Jason's videos and Digital Rancher and all those guys that have them. They're all up on their dash, prominently facing out to the world, and I've seen them on a few of their videos. So yeah, it's all cool. And I'm sure, Bill there was mentioning, that he probably has his in the car as well, or maybe in his shack. But it's like, think along those lines. And so I don't expect people to have crazy ideas now. Maybe you're a marketing person, but yeah, come over to the Discord, share a few of those ideas, and I'm willing to kind of maybe do a little marketing and kind of put something together that we can do low cost, and we can buy it in bulk. And like I do for the hammies here, we can sell those little tags, and you guys can create those, and we can start giving out some really cool things to like people that walk by, because I'd love to have a bunch of hammies or other things in my bag that I can easily hand out and not have to have a huge long conversation with somebody who might not be willing to take it all in, but can have something to say, hey, check this out, go, check this website out or whatever, and find more information. Or maybe you're like a person who has, like, you prefer to have paper and you like to have those conversations because the folks that come up to you. Well, having a one pager that's a little bit more glossy and kind of eye catching with a lot of this stuff in here would be very successful for a lot of folks, because it gives them everything they need without having to, get lost in the craziness of, electronics and technology and all of those buzzwords that we use, very quickly. So I don't know, anything I kind of missed, or, anything in the chat channel you saw that, people had for ideas, or.
Well, who was it? Jason Heff, K4HEF, said that we inspired him to he emailed all his new club members and let them know that he's activating a park tomorrow, and that they can
Awesome.
stop by to learn and ask questions. So Jason, definitely get back to us and let us know if you get any takers there, because it is, let's not forget, it is Support Your Parks weekend this weekend. So
Yep.
if you're an activator, this weekend is the perfect time to get out there and activate a park. And if you're a hunter, also, there'll be probably lots of extra parks on the air. So now is a good time to get on and hunt some parks. And you get a special certificate for those of us that are paper chasers. You get a activator for fall of 2025, and you get a hunter for fall of 2025 if you activate a park or make a contact this weekend.
Yep.
It's
Definitely.
it's not to take over the show, but it is
Oh,
also JOTA, Jamboree on the Air. So it's like one
good
of
call.
the oldest scout events in scouting, both here in the US and in the UK and Europe. So there's going to be a lot of different scouts troops on the air looking for contacts. Mostly, I think they want to contact, from scout troop to scout troop, but I'm sure they would not deny a contact from anyone that wanted to reach out and talk to them. So, let's try to make their day and not leave those kids out there hanging CQ for too long. Let's get out there and try to make some contacts with them as well.
Yep.
And then, I know we kind of talked about this a little bit, and I saw people talking about it in the chat about how stickers seem to be like kind of the newest, coolest giveaway, right? Everybody likes to put stickers on their car. They like to put stickers on their water bottles. So, I myself got stickers. If you saw me at Near Fest, I was giving out stickers.
I don't have
And
mine.
yeah, I don't have one handy, but
Well,
it's
you
same
look at her
thing
logo.
as, yeah, it's the same as my logo. So, like I said, I gave one of those out to the ham that I met at the World War II reenactment. And actually I gave one out too to somebody who wasn't a ham. I happened to be doing the ride with Miles. We rode on the M3 half track, and my phone had run out of battery completely because I took so much videos, and I couldn't take a picture of him sitting in the front seat of the half track. They let him sit in the passenger seat, which he was really excited about that.
That's
And
awesome.
so this other mom and dad and child that was sitting across from me, they offered to take a picture, and they were like, oh, let me take some pictures for you and then I can email them to you. So I gave them my eyeball QSO card because it had my email address on it and my my Google Voice cell phone number on there. So I gave them a card, and I asked their kid if they would like a sticker, and I gave them a sticker. So, the stickers are a good little handout. It may not have, the information of like what is ham radio, but, pair that with another card and it's sort of a little takeaway that they can have. And then the card might have, a way for them to either contact you for more information or a QR code to get that information that they're looking for. And Chris Bricker, I can definitely mail you one of those stickers if you like. Just shoot me an email at my email address, kc1oht@gmail.com. Or reach out to me on the Live Free and Ham Discord. And anyone that would like a sticker, I can get one in the mail for you.
Sweet. Yeah. Chris, you actually hit on something on the topic that I have a future show discussion about getting folks more invited into your club, and POTA is a great reference. And so I wanted to kind of share some of that stuff maybe on a future episode. So keep your eyes peeled for something like that as those topics are coming for sure, because POTA has been an awesome explosion in our club, and we have had more draw because of that and more people interested in doing it and learning it. So it's definitely something, you can definitely use as a tool to get more interest back in your club for sure, and getting more people out.
Yeah. And so, I know the show's getting a little long in the tooth here,
Yeah, that's okay.
but so for Chris about the, knocking on doors of hams. Now, I don't know if I would knock on the door, but I did find this website that it maps out the location of any ham radio operators that are like in a certain radius of like an address or a grid square, anything like that. And I've shown this to other people and it has blown their minds. So if you just look on this map and, put in your address and see pins of the ham radio operators that are around you, people that you might not even have known or ever heard on the air for whatever reason. So I've actually looked them up on QRZ to see, do they have, is their QRZ page filled out? Because that will probably tell you a little bit like if they're active or if they were ever active. Do they have an email address on there that you can actually get in touch with them? Or, you could always send them a radiogram if you want to be a real radio nerd. But I've even considered like just writing them a actual like handwritten letter, right? Because, like the art of letter writing is sort of, something that's maybe a little bit in decline, and it might be a little more personal and kind of surprise them to get, a letter with a QSL card, inviting them out and say, hey, I saw that you are a ham radio operator. I don't know if you're active or if you're interested in becoming more active, but, I'm also a ham. I'm in the area. I go to parks. I work the radio. And, meeting at a park, because it's in a public place for people that are a little bit more like wary of strangers, maybe you don't want to invite someone like to your house, or they don't want to invite you in their house, but it's like a neutral location that, everyone can feel good about, that, you're in a public place, and that you can leave when you want to, show up, when you want to, things of that nature. And I will try to find the link to that site.
I already posted it.
Oh, you found it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I use that often. It's kind of a cool little site. It actually pulls up by Google Maps once you type the call sign in.
Yeah.
So, yep. It's very cool. And then once you type the call sign in, it just expands it for everybody else. So it's a pretty cool little system. So, all right, cool. Yeah. So with that, we definitely have some really cool tools, but that'll be one of the conversations, I will definitely be picking up in the future there. And hopefully we'll give you some tips and tricks and get you going on that. For those that may have, be in on the know, you might have saw the little error that we made earlier in the week when we usually let out the live link for our Friday show. Mike, N2MAK, will be on with us next week. He will actually be doing, talking about VHF and UHF in POTA, specifically with the idea that, we're going to try to get you in and doing it. Like, he's got some awesome examples of like low budget kits and antennas and stuff like that we can, start to share and get people to start doing more VHF and UHF work in POTA and making more contacts, like, outside of just the typical, I'm going to pick up my HT and talk on 5.2 to round out my 11 or 10 contacts that I need to get the park activated on a tough, solar cycle week. So yeah, definitely, keep in mind for that. And as always, hey, if you want to be part of the community, we can say, like I said, head over to our Discord at the link in the show notes again for those folks. And if you're interested, for those that might be looking to get your own set of hammies and stuff, you can always go over to gethammed.com. That is over at the Live Free and Ham site. So if you see the URL change, it's just a vanity URL. The Live Free and Ham guys and the other podcast that I'm a part of with Grouch and W1STJ, that's over on our storefront there. So you can definitely, get more from that and get your own set of hammies. And love to have you be part of that community and handing them out. And there's a little bit of a thing there. So if you do get your own set, just hashtag me, get hammed. And we are putting together a little database for a little, prize for those folks that do a little quick video post or a photo of them deploying them out in the wild. So really cool. And so with that, yeah, let's kind of wrap this up. So, maybe if you've been enjoying the show for up to this point, and we've been going a little long, but that's totally awesome, guys. I appreciate it. It was a good topic. Hopefully you got a lot out of it today. I keep doing tonight, man. My mind is in just a weird place today. So, if you can, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and share button, as always, because it helps us grow the community, helps bring more awesome content your way, and obviously keeps both Shannon and I coming up with some really good topics for a future park and POTA related topics in the future. And at the same time, it also makes sure you don't miss any of our episodes of Brew and Activate. And so with that, I just have only one last thing. If you want to see more of Shannon and I, you can head over to, and actually this is not a channel specific, but you can head over to Shannon's channel. You can head over to my channel. There is the Northeast Ham Radio crew is getting together tonight. We are talking about Support Your Parks Weekend. That is a quick share from my channel. And it's a bunch of Northeast hams. The only criteria is that you got to be in the Northeast. We have special guests. Walt's an honorary guest, and hopefully I think he'll be on. I think he jumped off earlier because he had an activity outside of this. But it's a fun activity. We've 7 to 9 tonight, Eastern Standard Time. We're going to, like I said, talk about Support Your Parks Weekend. Folks like Mike, Grouch, myself, Shannon, everybody. We all hang out and have a great time and, share a few, tidbits on Support Your Parks Weekend. So that'll be coming up tonight. And with that, I think, I don't have anything more. Shannon, you got anything you want to throw in there, or we cover it all?
No, I think we covered everything and more. Well, Chris is asking me some questions about Echolink now in the chat. Okay. You don't need a special radio for Echolink. You just need the app on the app on your phone or the program for your PC. So catch me in the Live Free and Ham Discord. I can help you get that set up.
Yep, definitely do that. And now that we mentioned Echolink, we might as well just say, hey, if you want to continue the great conversation and you're an All-Star user, head on over to the Live Free and Ham All-Star Hub. That's the node number 580. Why the heck is commenting on radio? What the heck is 580-871? That's our Live Free and Ham hub. It's connected to a bunch of other folks in a Live Free and Ham. So put your call out there, say hello. We love having many ways to communicate, and that's one way if you're definitely an all-star user. And Echolink can connect in to that too as well. So love to have you be part of that. And if you would make sure, because we love our sponsors that help support my channel for sure, head over and support folks like Reliance, Mad Dog, and Spooltana. All those guys provide us obviously great tools and antennas for content to share with you guys, but more so they help support us as a my channel as well. And hopefully one day we'll get Shannon doing antenna reviews and all that other fun stuff. So with that, you can always remember that we're here every Friday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll hope to see you next week. Please, like I said, make sure you like, subscribe, share, hang out. And until next time, keep those radios on, the PTT down, and POTA on.
POTA on, guys and girls.